Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. My name is Tommy. I'm a human nutrition student and researcher at the university. My job here is to synthesize what I learned from the classes I have at the university and then explain to you the best and most valuable information you need to know. Today we're going to continue the series of the public health. So let's begin. Today we talk about health and disease. We're going to view the different types of diseases that there are out there. So you have to know that there are two categories, communicable or transmissible and chronic diseases. Let's first begin with communicable diseases. So here we are. Communicable diseases. An infection can lead to an infectious disease, and an infectious disease can lead to a communicable disease. Communicable diseases do have an epidemiologic chain, and this is very important to remember. We have a causal agent, for example, a bacteria. We have a reservoir, for example, soil or human body or primates. We have transmission mechanisms, this is very important, and then we have a host. And of course, environmental factors. For communicable diseases, we have an epidemiological vigilance. This is an organization on a country level that focuses on limiting these communicable diseases in the population. And this is, for example, the CDC in the United States. Communicable diseases have this thing called R0. This number is going to tell us how many people are going to be infected per person. For example, if we have an R1, that means that if I have the disease, I'm going to probably transmit it to another person. If this is R2, then I'm going to transmit it to 2 people. It is interesting when this gets below 1, because that means that we are limiting the transmission of that disease. So this number is very, very important, and the goal is to bring it below 1. Prevention and control measures. We have to differentiate between quarantine and isolation. Quarantine is for healthy individuals that have been in contact with the sick one, and isolation is for the sick one. So now we have a general idea of what communicable diseases are. We can go to the first category, which is airborne diseases. Airborne diseases are acute respiratory infections, and it can be done by a bacteria, a virus, or both. The most important ones are the pneumonias and tuberculosis. The problem with these two is that they can have a multi-resistance. Multi-resistance means that if we treat the people that are infected with these things right here, viruses and bacteria, are going to resist our treatments of antibiotics and are going to be even more difficult to block. On airborne diseases, we have a direct and indirect transmission. What does that mean? Direct transmission is, for example, if you cough right in front of someone else's face, that's a direct transmission. But indirect transmission is when, for example, you cough on your elbow or on your hand, and then some of the bacteria is going to go in the air and stay there, and someone else, when is going to get inside that room, for example, is going to catch it by breathing the air. So to limit the transmission, we have the prevention. Prevention is everything we just saw with what we have passed in the last 2 years. So social distancing, hands hygiene, using gloves and especially masks. And here we have to differentiate between hygienic, surgical, FFP1, FFP2 and FFP3. So now we talk about some common airborne diseases. For example, the influenza virus. It has high morbidity and high mortality. Morbidity means that it's easy for people to catch this virus. Morbidity is the number of cases, just for you to remember it. So high morbidity, high mortality. Influenza virus can be seasonal, like the one we have every year. Can be transmitted by a bird, the bird flu, or by a pandemic. For example, the Spanish flu. Coronavirus is another type of airborne disease. It is a zoonosis, and it creates fever, dry cough, tiredness, and many more symptoms that many people have experienced during the last 2 years. And here it says different variant causes different symptoms. Now moving on, we have digestive tract diseases, and these lead to foodborne illnesses. Gastrointestinal problems, but these are determined by these 4 factors, which is the agent, which type of virus or bacteria we have ingested, the doses, how much of it, the host, which is, well, ourselves, and the time. These foodborne illnesses are transmitted by food contamination, and here again it can be direct or indirect. We have intoxications, infections, and poisoning. Intoxications is that we ingest the toxins from a bacteria, for example. Infections is that we ingest the bacteria. And poisoning, that we ingest the bacteria that has also the toxins. And here we have some examples. Salmonella. It has a high adaptability because it can live in many different circumstances, like different types of temperatures. It has 2 types, the typhoid salmonella and the gastrointestinal salmonella, and it has a low incubation period. So this is good for diagnosis, so we know that it was salmonella, and it prefers high temperatures. That's why it's most common during the summer. Then we have the Campylobacter. This is the most frequent one. I mean, salmonella is the most known one, but it's not really the one that creates the most cases. This is the one, the Campylobacter. It is present in poultry meat, raw milk, and contaminated water, and it is most frequent in children under 5 years of age. Then we have Listeriosis, which is present in raw food, creates biofilms. It has a death rate of 30%, but it needs more than 2,000 colony-forming units. It is most frequent in people older than 65 years old. Then we have Escherichia coli, which means that there was a fecal-oral transmission, and the most important types of Escherichia coli are the enterotoxigenic and the enterohemorrhagic. It is present in raw food and contaminated one as well. And then botulism. This is Clostridium botulinum, and it needs to pass through the soil because it is the reservoir of these bacteria, and it creates muscle paralysis. It can be found in homemade preserves because it is an anaerobic bacteria. For more information about this, I have a video called Food Hygiene and Safety in my microbiology series of videos. And then we have the sexually transmitted diseases. These are only direct transmission, really. They have high morbidity and high mortality. The epidemiologic chain is, well, the human is the host. We have a transmission people to people, and it is done through sex. Prevention. We have a prevention for limiting the transmission of these diseases, and this consists mainly in information to the people. Then there are also vaccines, vigilance, also the diagnosis, some drugs to stop this, analysis, and of course early treatment. Here we are with some examples. We have the gonorrhea, which is a disease that increased in 2001 and increased exponentially in 2013. The age range is between 20 and 24 years old. Then we have syphilis. It is also a vertical and blood transmission, so not only sexual. It has phases, and the last one is lethal, the third one. People who have syphilis are 90% men, and it increased in 2001, in 2011, and in 2016. Chlamydia trachomatis, it's the reverse. We have more cases in women than in men. It increased in 2016, and the age range is between 20 and 24. Then we have the human papillomavirus, and this is the most frequent one. It is present in more than 80% of sexually active people. The age range is between 15 and 25, and It is transitory and immunogenic. And then we finally have the most famous one, the HIV. This is a zoonosis and it has type 1 and type 2. There are 3 phases, which are the infection phase, the asymptomatic, but in which we can transmit the disease, and then the AIDS. Most cases are in people older than 50 because of infections caught during the 80s, in which this virus was very common. Okay, so that's it for this video. We finished. We viewed today the communicable diseases, in particular the airborne diseases, the digestive tract diseases, and the sexually transmitted diseases. I hope you understood everything. If you didn't, there is a comment section down below so you can write me down your doubts. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel and share it to friends and family to let them know the communicable diseases as well. If you click on the first link in the description below, you can download it for free and start it very well. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one. Ciao!